Thanks for joining Sing Squad. I'm your host, a political and cultural critic, Sharon with two R's. I'm joined again today with my lovely co-host and historian and my TikTok sibling, Rosalie, and you're listening to Seen and Heard podcast. So let's get started. I want to open with TikTok user Kevin True, and he is Yo Kevin True, also on Blue Sky. I'll spell it out in the caption so you guys can go follow him on Blue Sky and TikTok. But we're going to open up and talk about the Mr. Musk once again. And we're going to play a video also from Musk's daughter, Vivian. She has a lot to say about Mr. Musk and his behavior. And we're also going to cover the EIP. What was that? With the children?
We're going to talk about some of the effects on students who are getting an IEP that we're seeing out of the Midwest.
And then does that have to do with the when they closed down the Department of Education and now they're declining to have the disabled children in the schools?
Yeah, so they're essentially making it so that we can get into a little bit more detail later. But yeah, it's mostly about funding issues, essentially, kind of having a trickle down effect, and the district making decisions as they always do to bump the funding that goes to the special needs kids, essentially. So
people not qualified, but they're qualified to ruin our lives, right? Okay, we'll talk on the other side of this video here.
All right, well, we have massive news about Tesla. Elon tried to hide this at Friday at 6 p.m. This is often a technique used to bury stories. But what ended up happening on Friday is that xAI, basically kind of a shell corporation, purchased the assets of Twitter, okay, and then combined the two entities. He purchased the assets for $33 billion minus $12 billion in debt, same value that he acquired it for from a company that is making less than half the total revenue, okay? And so I really want to make this clear. Musk acquires Twitter, screws it up, and in order to hide his incompetence, creates a shell corporation that is just an AI corporation to hype the value of that, because AI startups are really valued. The values of both Anthropic, which is another AI company, and OpenAI are through the roof. So what he's doing is essentially he's kind of like embezzling money here. Well, embezzling is the wrong word. He's basically using the hype of AI to acquire Twitter and combine the assets to basically take poison and combine it with regular food so that when we eat it, we don't realize that we're dying, essentially. And so investors are furious about this. One of the investors on Twitter says, like, okay, now apparently I invested in xAI and now I own a defunct, bankrupt social media company. Yeah, so that's what he did. And so in order to get the value of xAI to go through the roof, what Elon did was he diverted a GPU, a massive GPU purchase that Tesla was going to make. Tesla was in line with NVIDIA to purchase this massive GPU cluster. Except what Elon did is he diverted that to xAI, got a massive valuation. He spent a massive amount of cash to hire a bunch of AI people from Silicon Valley who apparently don't care that they're working for, Grazis. Diverted that from Tesla, put it into xAI, got xAI massively hypervalued, and then he acquires Twitter. And I really want to underscore this. The reason he had to do this before April 22nd is because that is when Tesla's earnings come out. And if Tesla's earnings implode, which I think Elon realizes that they're going to implode, so he did this on Friday and hid it so that way no one is aware of this. So make this story blow up so we can get, more criticism and more.
So our job is to keep the pressure on that brand anything associated with that Tesla brand, Cybertruck brand, Starlink brand.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to have to learn that everything he touches is going to turn to ash. And it's almost the only way that you're going to be able to get that taken care of, is to make him a pariah in a sense. And I also found some information that we can go into on this, discussing some of the concerns with it being specifically bought by the AI company as well.
Yes.
But obviously the financial concerns, it's obviously another borrow from Peter to pay Paul, which is the same kind of situation that Trump has used to borrow to build his fortune as well. I talk about this as a finance professional a lot, that and they talk about this in so many, if you listen to the how to get rich books and all that stuff, they talk about it. It's rich people don't use their money to pay for things, they use other people's money to pay for things. Rich people get rich, or acquire assets through acquiring a lot of debt, essentially.
Yeah, explain
and
that
then a lot
to
of
us.
times they'll file bankruptcy in order to not have to pay back that debt, and then they have the capital to essentially like recover from it and keep it moving in a way that a lot of folks are demonized if they file bankruptcy, if you're part of the 99%. But the 1% uses bankruptcies and the shuffling between different kinds of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul constantly. But if we happen to do something like that, we're just fiscally irresponsible. And so you can see that it's what's good for me is not good for thee kind of a situation when it comes to finance. I tell people, I'm like, we are literally not playing by the same rules as the folks in the 1%. They, as you can tell, the rules just do not apply to them in a lot of different cases. And I think that his breakdown of that was actually pretty spot on. Do you have any thoughts on your end before I go into?
No, I find that fascinating, and I was never really, really good at math, but like when somebody that knows what they're talking about talks about it, I do understand it. But I just, like you said, our power is to make anything associated with Tesla, Cybertrucks, all of him, a pariah. And on that, I want to introduce Vivian. A lot of people may not know Vivian is Elon's estranged daughter. And today is Trans Day of Visibility. So that kind of ties into this video that we're getting ready to play, because earlier today, Elon got into a fight with his baby mama of the 14th child, which I don't feel sorry for her, because she is a right-wing, lunatic as well.
Most of them, as far as I've been seeing, allegedly these are all planned. These are in artificial AI, in vitro, and things are, as far as I've heard, being used in some cases. So
because he can't function. His rocket doesn't work. Okay, I'm gonna play this.
No, not in real life, not in any way.
I'm gonna play this. The look on your face. Okay, I'm gonna play this video. We're talking on the other side. Well, I mean,
I found out about the existence of my half-brother through reddit.com/r/RuPaul's Drag Race.
Elon Musk's trans daughter, Vivian Jenna Wilson, claims she discovered she had a half-sibling on a RuPaul's Drag Race Reddit thread. The 21-year-old daughter of the tech billionaire recalls browsing the Drag Race subreddit in 2022 and stumbling upon a tweet from Season 2 contestant Tatiana. The tweet, posted in March 2022, read, "Not Grimes popping out another axolotl." Vivian disclosed that this was during a period of time where she was not in contact with her father's ex, Grimes. Allegedly, Vivian had no idea about the existence of her half-sibling until this moment, and had to check the news to verify the information.
Double check it on the news, and turns out it's actually true, and I'm just the last one to find out about it. This is a real thing that happened to me, girl. I found out about my half-brother because of the same parts drag queen.
Tatiana responded to the post writing, "OMG, I'm so sorry LMAO." This video was posted as a follow-up to another TikTok that Vivian posted a day before, captioned, "Wow, if I had a nickel for every time I found out I had half-siblings through Reddit, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice, right?" This post references the other time that Vivian learned of having a half-sibling through Reddit. In this instance, she saw a Reddit post informing her that author Ashley St. Clair claimed to have given birth to Musk's 13th child. Ashley St. Clair, a conservative political commentator known for her anti-trans children's book, Elephants Are Not Birds, posted an announcement on X that alleged she had given birth and Elon was the father. She said, "I have not previously disclosed this to protect our child's privacy and safety." Elon is yet to comment. Naturally, Vivian's revelations have sent the internet into a frenzy, with many expressing shock over the unconventional way she's learned about her ever-growing family.
One thing about all this is I'm not a fan at all of especially American style reality shows.
Mhm.
So personally for me, I don't appreciate being forced to have to be subjected to all of this kind of like reality show type drama, which has real implications on people's lives, like real lives. Because it being on TV, I just don't watch it on TV. I've never watched an episode of the Kardashians, none of that. I don't watch that stuff. But now we're all subjected to this nonsense, with going, and then Elon, whatever they do in their lives, good, okay, but it affects our real lives.
Right.
So that's
Right.
one thing I don't appreciate about all this like reality
You
show
could have
type
just
stuff.
quietly been richer than the rest of us. You didn't have to like make it our problem, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wouldn't be in this mess now, would we?
What are your thoughts?
Not done. I think it's recorded.
Look at my messy. I got a messy bun too.
And the thing is like, I think like that you're like, when we talk about the unintended consequences of this like family drama, if we will, I think that it plays into the anti-trans narrative, of course. And Vivian, as a trans woman being in her position of privilege and influence, is choosing to use it as an agent of chaos for good, frankly. Mm-hmm. And I love her for that. I really hope that she remains
safe. I do like that part because I know she looks like him in the face, in the eyes, and that makes him blow a gasket every time. Every time he sees her, because she looks just like him.
Right. And the thing is it's so funny. I found out that my half sibling was like a real person through Facebook because she found me. So like when I tell you this whole, like I had my biological father was a toxic guy who denied having another child to, like, they if it's not about them, if it doesn't center them, if the drama is not about them, it tends to somehow having half siblings apparently that you don't know about unless you find out through social media is like not a unique experience either. So I feel you there. Not Elon Musk bad.
Well, I know, right? Like I said, it just wouldn't be so. It would be so bad if he did not, affect our real lives, the way he does. And so that goes into what you were getting ready to talk about. Like, was it in Wisconsin?
So first, I'm going to talk about, before we go into the school IEP part of things that I was going to discuss. I do want to do a quick piece of an article from AI Business discussing the purchase of X by XAI. Just something for people to keep in mind. I know that not as many people are on that platform as they used to be, but for folks who are, it's just something to keep in mind. This is from AI Business. And I want to pay attention specifically to feel free to go read the whole article. I'll scroll up so you can find the title.
We'll post the link in the description so you can read the article.
Now, let me put that in the chat for you now so you have it before I forget.
Okay.
Let me be a good co-host. So I do want to focus in on this more central paragraph, though, where it talks about training AI models on X content introduces another major issue: the reliability of the data. Unlike vetted sources, X has no systematic fact checking, meaning AI systems could absorb and amplify misinformation, biased narratives, or even harmful content. Without safeguards, this could lead to AI models generating misleading or inaccurate information, reinforcing echo chambers, and eroding trust in AI driven insights. Because X's policy allows for public data to be used, but many users may not realize their posts and images are also feeding into AI models. And so I think it's just adding insult to injury when it comes to folks who are still kind of holding out hope on that platform. From what I hear, it's a lot of bots at this point anyway. People have been kind of leaving it to go to Blue Sky and other platforms in general, like, trying threads and things like that. But just something to keep in mind, because AI models tend to reflect the biases of the people who are designing them. And one of the biggest critiques that I've heard from minority communities, and maybe you can speak to this if you've heard anything on your end, obviously, is that because it tends to be these more conservative white men who are creating a lot of these AI algorithms and models and training them, that they actually tend to produce biased and racist outputs and results and outcomes.
And add on the digital blackface.
Right. And I never even considered that angle. So thank you. That's why I was like, I know that you've got, I'm like, I know she's got some layer of nuance to add to this that I don't know. So thank you for that. I was like, I know she's got the words. But yeah, I think it's just something important for people to pay attention to. So like you said, we'll link that, but we'll go ahead and we'll kind of focus in on one. I want to talk about an article that actually came out back in November of 2024, right after the election happened. And they were already starting to post articles. This was in the Ohio Capital Journal, but discussing inequality looms for special education if he eliminates the Department of Education. Ohio parents were already kind of sounding the alarm that, like, the disparities in the levels of education that are provided, we're afraid that anyone with IEPs or 504 plans are going to be the first on the chopping block. And then we see articles coming out now that, in the last couple of days, that schools in Ohio for students enrolled in 7th and 8th grade who are in special education programs are not being renewed for open enrollment and are being told essentially you're going to have to find a different school. Me personally, my daughter is also somebody who receives those types of benefits through open enrollment, because our local elementary school, she was like the one she was originally zoned for and supposed to go to, they dropped the special needs pre-K class. And I wound up having to take her to a school where I have to drive her. It's twice the distance to take her to another school because they said they didn't have the space, they didn't have the facilities, and they didn't have the bandwidth, essentially, which is basically what they're saying. The workload with specific teachers is overloaded. They didn't have the space or the requirements to be able to provide for them. And so my kid, already within the last year before the Department of Education was even touched, already had to be bumped to a different school because of a lack of resources in my state. And so as somebody who understands and is praying that this doesn't come down the pipeline any further than it already has, knowing that it probably will, and you can see the parents were trying to raise the alarm back in November. Like, this wasn't something that they're like, oh, all of a sudden people are starting to be worried about it. Parents in Ohio have been saying this was going to be a problem. And here we are 4 months after this article, almost 4 months the day after that other article was published, with the results showing that 7th and 8th graders are basically being told you have to find a different school.
So how do you see this playing out?
The ultimate goal is to get it back to what used to happen. And people talk about it a lot these days where, you just didn't see a lot of autistic kids. And the answer is no, you didn't. They were institutionalized. You didn't see them in public because they were not allowed in public. They either didn't go to school, they masked hard enough for long enough that they caused themselves to just fit in and then burn out eventually, but you never really actually hear about the diagnosis or go through that. That's kind of partially what my experience was. not being caught and getting all the way through, and then hitting burnout in my early 30s around the time that I had my daughter, and my brain chemistry changed, and all of a sudden I couldn't operate at the capacity that I used to be able to operate at, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with me, and I had hit burnout. Or, you know, we wind up having a lot of people who are, it's a double-edged sword that the problem is they don't want them in school at all. And so you wind up having this situation where rather than providing these services, the goal is, well, who's going to wind up having to take care of them when they can't be in school? Normally, it's the mother. And that plays into, they don't necessarily want women to be empowered in this system either. And they know that the primary caretakers of children are the women. Not that men don't step up to the plate and take care of special needs children either. That's not the comment I'm making, but we're talking about the majority of cases here. And they know that it will most likely impact women. And the goal is to pull back on women being involved in public life as well, because that's not where they're meant to be in the mentality of this super patriarchal structure and system. And so it's a very big trickle down effect, as is the transgender conversation that we were discussing earlier.
And none of that makes sense to me, because if the women, say like in your situation, if you have to pull out of the workforce and you have to take care of your child, it's kind of like them replacing workers with all AI. Who's going to buy your product? Who's going to, you know what I'm saying? How are we supposed to be participating in society if that's going to be the case? Because not all men are going to be able to take up the mantle either.
Right. So it's a conversation that we have a lot on the race side of things. And I think that you can apply that same kind of mentality. I was actually talking to a friend of mine about that recently, where it was like, I think we were talking about it with when it came to like women's sports and how they fund women's sports. And in all fairness, if they actually put any effort into making women's sports paid equally, same type of merch, you would, or even combine the sports together and actually had men and women play co-ed sports. The most fun I've ever had playing a sport was playing co-ed sports. And you see some of the like more like specialty games that they do for like basketball tournaments and things like that. When they play co-ed for like 3-point shooting tournaments, it's like the highest ratings they ever get when you have men and women competing together. A lot of this is intended to divide, right? The goal is to divide us up so that we cannot commune, right? If we don't have the same pain points because women are in the workforce, then men and women have another thing that divides them again, right? We're trying to divide people and conquer. Not we, but they.
Right.
If I were trying to make sense of it. But it's also the conversation of, it is worth whatever it costs to keep women down, in the same way that the United States has shot itself in the foot time and time and time again by keeping the Black community and the Indigenous community down, rather than allowing them to thrive and potentially solving problems and making innovations that we could have solved decades ago. We're decades behind because we would rather keep minorities and disenfranchised folks down. It's worth that cost for white supremacy to stay running.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense because it's not a sensical thing to do. Period. Like it's for the sake of maintaining that system. It literally is that's why they call it like a self-eating system. So,
and to be honest,
there's no good reason is the answer.
To be honest, I don't believe, because of they would rather burn the country to ashes than to be equal, and especially equal with the black people. I don't think in my lifetime, I'm just being honest, I'm just speaking for myself out loud, that I'm going to see the damage that this regime is doing. I don't see it getting any balance, getting back on the right track in my lifetime. I'm Gen X. I was born in 68. I don't see, like I said, I'm speaking for myself, just being honest. The way things are going, I do not see a corrective course in my lifetime. I won't see it again.
Right.
And that's just like a gut punch to me.
Yeah.
To think about that.
There's a lot of what's been done here that cannot be undone. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't matter if they resigned right now and walked away. There is no undoing some of the things that have been done. And a lot of people can argue, and even I could make the argument that a lot of things should be undone.
Mm-hmm.
How they are undone matters. And the way that they are undoing them without any infrastructure to support, no scaffolding of another system even.
Mm-hmm.
The goal to dismantle this system should always be to have a system
In
that
place.
we can pivot into.
Mm-hmm.
What they're going to do is an every man for themselves, hyper individualistic. If you can't, if you already weren't thriving in the other system, then you don't even deserve to thrive in the new one, essentially. So if you get left behind, you get left behind. It's always been an every man for themselves mentality about it. And I don't think it's an irrational thought for you to have that kind of reaction. Now, as somebody who is millennial, who is, a couple of decades younger, I still have hope that in my lifetime I'm going to get to see the buds for me of what could be. I think my ultimate goal, because of my, I have a young child, is that I can infuse her with the drive and the passion and the will to continue and carry that torch. But it's going to be up to white people to get it together.
I was about to say the only way any of this stops is white people.
And
plain
white
and simple.
women specifically.
Mm-hmm.
White women specifically.
Elaborate more on that, because it needs to be said. It can't come from me because they don't like to listen to people that look like me. So you go ahead.
Because at the end of the day, white women are the source in a lot of ways. And not that they're the only people that are raising men. They're not responsible for patriarchy. However, this refusal to get uncomfortable in a way that would actually make the change for the collective, being willing to step away from that proximity to the power and the privilege that we have, ruffling feathers. We are taught to be pretty, don't ruffle a lot of feathers, and you damn sure better not embarrass this family. And you're gonna have to do all of it. I'm deeply uncomfortable with the idea of doing all of it too. I'm not going to sit here and say it does not make me uncomfortable. And that's why I encourage white women specifically to do as much healing as they can when it comes to boundary setting, when it comes to self-respect and self-confidence, and the healing element of what I talk about. Because until we get to that point and you can receive feedback in a way that doesn't center you, that doesn't make you the victim of the feedback, that allows you to get uncomfortable and hear those type of things and accept that the shoe might fit on occasion, because we're not gonna get anywhere. If we want to keep rolling in this, it's always somebody else's problem. I'm always going to blame somebody else, and I'm never going to just fight for myself. White women have been taught to do nothing, and so we do nothing.
And here's an example of one with privilege. I wanted to show this earlier, but it has to do with the patriarchy and what. Let me see. This with the argument between the Ashley St. Clair and Elon. So just kind of looking at her comment here, I mean, minus the fact that this is just, none of our business. I don't appreciate having to be forced to see this stuff.
Right.
But she is a prime example. It's ridiculous. She knew who she was laying down with. Well, like we said, the IV thing, because he shot himself in the foot. He deserves all this mockery. Okay, his rocket doesn't work, but he's having all these kids.
And I made a comment on another video that I posted months and months ago on TikTok. But the comment was in dehumanizing others, you will inherently dehumanize yourself, right? And
But they don't care.
this is like a prime example of the dehumanization boomerang, if you will, coming back around. The colonial, the imperial boomerang, essentially coming back to get her. And it always does. This is what you're seeing with this Ashley St. Clair situation is kind of the situation that you're seeing. Like, if you want to like put an analogy or a metaphor together of like when Trump is starting to say drill baby drill, and it's all of the things that we've done to exploit other countries and their land and their natural resources and their minerals. They're planning to just, if they're going to isolate us and do everything to us that they've been doing all over the world. And that's exactly what's happening to Ashley in this situation, or any of other Elon's other exes, is that like all the privilege, all of the things that we thought we were hiding from that made us better, eventually will be our downfall.
This one part here is just really sending me the second paragraph of her post here. And you weren't sending me money. You were sending support for your child that you thought was necessary until you withdrew most of it to maintain control and punish me for disobedience. But you're really only punishing yourself. Like,
Right. Right.
and these people are in charge of our lives. Like thinking it's a game.
And that's the thing that's so frustrating about it, because this sentence, her typing all of that out, means that she understands.
Yeah.
She understood the implications of the type of person that he was. She knew, and like you said, and it's not me saying, oh, she deserves to be abused. Nobody deserves to be abused. But it's, at some point, white women have got to stop infantilizing themselves too, and being, I'm just a girl, I didn't know any better. When in a lot of situations, like, we can be our own worst enemy. And this is another one of those situations where, you know, if you're willing to ignore every raging red flag with such a public person, like, I could understand if he was a very private person, and he wasn't sharing his thoughts and views every 5.5 seconds, probably from his golden toilet. You know what I mean?
Like none of this needs to be out there. Like none of it.
The typical woman will, it's because it's not like he has this massive, presence of who he is, and it's easier for people to get fooled, right? Because you can't, their whole lives and everything isn't out there, to bear. But when it comes to him, she chose him.
Yeah.
In a way, and
she knew who he was,
specifically because she was the way that she was, and this is what you see. These are toxic white supremacy family dynamics.
And she is a product, like what you were saying. She's a nurturer of that. Right.
And that's what we're taught to be, essentially. And it's breaking out. You will be the black sheep. It is very hard to be the one who tries to break that mold. As somebody who's doing it currently, it's a very isolating and lonely thing, and that's why it's so hard for so many folks to break out of it. It's leaving an abusive relationship. It doesn't have to be a romantic one, but we see a lot of those dynamics playing out. So,
and all of that is, destroying us. Like we were talking about. Like in my lifetime, I won't see any kind of progress, real progress in my lifetime. Look what just happened yesterday. Japan, South Korea, and China vow to strengthen trade ties amid looming U.S. tariffs. These three countries hate it. I mean, look what's happening here.
In all fairness, everyone else seems to be progressing, and we seem to, because to get Japan and China, it's not. And even
South Korea, they got beef. They still got beef, but look at this. They are willing.
They said the enemy of my enemy, I guess.
I mean,
at this point, I think the thing is that I think that a lot of these things are actually, when you're like, I won't see the improvements in my lifetime, I think you are seeing them. I think that they're not the improvements. Unfortunately, it's like when we're purging toxins, and so they're all coming up all at the same time, and this is happening globally, right? The United States is not the only one with an audacious amount of nonsense coming out of the fascism coming out of their government. The United States is just very good at making it everybody else's problem. Like, that we're very good at making everybody else's problem. But this is this.
When I saw this,
I think I was like, "You gotta be." I was like, Sharon's gonna have something to say. It's like,
oh my God. And look, mind you, it's just because I know from what I've learned of their history, like all of their collective history, and listened to people that are of that culture. I've listened to Japanese people. I had a Japanese cousin. Well, she married into our family, Japanese, family, and listening to actual South Koreans, American South Koreans, South Koreans, Chinese, Japanese, telling their history and why they clashed, hearing the gory details, and then seeing this now, we're in trouble. I mean, we knew we were in trouble, but this.
Well, the thing is that Trump, and I've made videos about this a couple months ago as well. It's interesting to. It's like, oh man, the pattern recognition is really, really. I wish I were wrong sometimes on some of these. On some of them, I am like slightly off, but a couple of them, I'm like, oh man, I really wish I'd been off on these. But it was Trump is repeatedly given China an opportunity to step into the driver's seat, and they're going to take.
And they're doing it.
When he's like, oh, well, we're going to pull out of providing funding for sick kids around the world because China's not paying their fair share. I'm like, China needs to step up. And China's like,
okay. All right.
What do you think we've been doing? Waiting. We've just been moving in silence, essentially, and doing what they need to do. And here we are we're getting what we asked for. And then, of course, we'll wind up blaming it on Iran or Russia or whatever. But in reality, I've been talking about like this dance that we keep doing with Russia. It's just, I'm like, why can't these two countries just make out already? Like,
right.
At this point,
it's just it's embarrassing and disgusing.
Right. It's giving toxic relationship.
I mean, back in Helsinki, when they went to Helsinki, his first term, Reign of Terror. Remember when he came out back from that little meeting that he had with Putin? You don't remember? It was actually. I'm gonna pull up the picture. Let me see if I still got it. I don't know if I deleted it all.
Zelensky?
Yeah, Trump and Zelensky.
Oh, you mean when they went and when they were having that fight?
Well, they were having a meeting, and you know how Trump likes to boast. I am big and bad, and Putin is like all this and that, and so he goes into the back room, and this was the same meeting that he told the person that was keeping the records of the meeting. He told them to get rid of those records.
That meeting. Okay.
Yes, and he came out. He was all hunched over and looked like he just got beat with a rubber bat or something. That was like the most. When I saw that picture, I guess I deleted it because I was cleaning off. And
I just heard about them like asking for the transcripts essentially to be
destroyed them.
Destroyed. Yeah.
I wish I might have to find it again and play it on another podcast because I wanted to show that picture because it looked like they were trying to scrub it off of the internet. So I'm gonna have to find it. I'm on a mission now. I'm gonna have to find that picture. We're gonna play it on another.
Fair enough.
Oh, there was also another follow-up. I wanted to. What was the follow-up? Not to our haters on YouTube channel. I can't remember. I just got a brain fart.
if you don't have any haters, are you really doing anything? Come on.
I thought I had it. Look, I just got a
You can
brain
always
fart.
count on a hit dog to holler. That's how I feel.
Apologies. But so we're going to end on that. Do you have a call to action or anything, last words you like to say to our next show?
Please go and check out the information, especially the tip jar for the show. It really helps Sharron get the equipment and resources that she needs to kind of keep the production level at the top quality that she has it with all this amazing editing that she's been doing, as well as, just making all of this possible, giving me the opportunity to be on a platform. So I highly encourage you to go and join either in our VIP memberships, or if there is even a small $5 donation that you can give. Every little bit helps us continue to kind of grow this grassroots podcast setup, and Sharron's worked so hard on it, and she deserves all the accolades I can give. So if you can, for anything coming out of my end of things, I think every bit of support that we can throw her way. She's very talented, self-taught at all of this. I mean, imagine what she could do with the resources to really blow this thing up. So that's my
thank you. And I love you guys. I love everybody. Love the haters as well. And we will see you guys. We will see you guys on the next show. Bye.
Guy's going to send you to Mars in 4 years. Don't count on it. He said that. He said SpaceX.
I know.
We're going to Mars in 4 years. You know how much oxygen? 0.1%.
Right. Okay.
So what do you do when you get to Mars? You don't breathe, Elon.
Okay.
How do you deal with these people?
I've interviewed him many times. He does. He says he wants to die on Mars, just not on landing.
Fine.
Okay. Okay. Good.
He can do it in 4 hours, according to him.
Okay. Okay.